All right, so we're diving deep today, folks, into Colleen Hoover's
Yeah.
maybe someday. We're going to hit those big questions. Love, loyalty, the whole deal. You know, how we connect with each other. What struck me is Hoover doesn't just give us a simple love triangle.
Oh, no, not at all.
She throws in these curveballs about how we communicate. Makes you really stop and think.
For sure. Right off the bat, Sydney catches her boyfriend cheating.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Talk about trust issues and how easily communication can just totally break down.
Totally.
And then you've got Ridge experiencing the world so differently because he's deaf.
It's like Hoover set up this experiment almost. You know, how can two people with such different lives, different ways of communicating, how do they even start to connect?
Yeah, great point.
And that balcony scene
Oh, yeah.
where Sydney's watching Ridge play his music.
Yeah.
So smart. That's the spark right there.
It's really clever how that physical distance, them being in separate buildings, actually reflects their emotional distance, you know? At that point in the story, they're drawn to each other, but there's this gap, not just physical, emotional too, and in how they talk to each other.
And then Hoover uses texting, which, hello, we all do it now, right?
Right.
But she uses it in such an interesting way.
Totally. It lets them open up, share things they might not say face to face.
True.
But it also leads to, well, misunderstandings, especially with Ridge keeping that secret about Sydney's boyfriend.
Okay, let's talk about that secret. Ridge sees Hunter cheating,
Big time.
and he's torn. Loyalty to his friend, but wanting to protect Sydney. Right call, wrong call. What do you think?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I can see why he stuck to the bro code, you know, staying loyal to Warren.
Yeah.
But seeing Sydney hurting and knowing the truth, that's got to create some serious tension. Makes you think about what loyalty really means.
It makes you wonder if Ridge had just been more upfront, maybe things would have been different.
Possibly. But would we even have a story then?
Ah, good point.
That secret, those limits on their communication, it drives the plot, right?
Yeah.
Forces them to face these huge questions about trust, honesty, all that.
Then it gets even more complicated when Sydney moves in.
Oh, yeah.
They're close physically, but still walls up emotionally.
And then you throw Bridget and Warren into the mix.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Whole other level of crazy.
He each reacts so differently to Ridge and Sydney's, you know, thing. Bridget, she's hostile, like threatened.
Yeah.
And Warren's more the skeptical type,
Yeah.
waiting to see what happens.
I love how Warren, though, even though he's all tough,
Yeah,
cracks.
he does.
Especially when he gets drunk and spills about Maggie.
Yeah.
Like he's accidentally pushing Ridge and Sydney together.
He's the friend who knows too much.
Totally.
He's carrying that knowledge about Ridge's feelings for Maggie.
Right.
And it comes out in this, you know, very human, messy way.
And then there's Maggie herself.
Yeah.
Seems like a really good person. Gets Ridge. Understands him.
What's interesting is she represents a different kind of love. It's mature, understanding. She accepts Ridge, all of him, doesn't freak out about his deafness, needing to feel the music.
Right. Right.
She embraces it.
So we've got this love triangle where you kind of root for everyone. Sydney and Ridge, they have that spark.
Yeah.
But Maggie and Ridge, they have this deep understanding. Like Hoover wants us to see love isn't simple.
Yeah.
There's not always a right answer.
It blows up that whole, the one idea, right?
Totally.
Makes you consider how love shows up in our lives in different ways. Passionate love, supportive love, love built on history, love that lets go.
Whoa.
That.
Deep. It's not just two people falling in love. It's about all the shapes love can take.
And how those shapes sometimes crash into each other.
That's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, things get really interesting because, you know, you have this tension. Sydney's falling for a guy who's already taken.
Right.
And Ridge, he's trying to be the good guy, but his feelings, they're all over the place.
And then boom, that party scene.
Yeah.
Maggie has that health scare.
Oh, man.
Changes everything.
Yeah.
For everyone.
It really does. It shows how much Ridge cares about Maggie, you know, how he just jumps in to help. You can see how important she is to him. I think that's when it hits Sydney.
Like a reality check.
Totally. Like, wait, this is serious. But then comes Warren's explosion. Oof, brutal.
Yeah, he goes off on her.
It's interesting, though, because with Warren, it's not so simple. It's anger, sure. Jealousy, maybe. Even guilt. Like, he feels responsible on some level for this whole mess. He lashes out at Sydney.
Yeah.
But you can tell he's wrestling with his own stuff, too. You know, his feelings for Maggie, for Ridge.
He's like the collateral damage in this whole love triangle.
Exactly. Everyone's getting hurt. And you start to wonder if anything good can even come out of this, you know.
And then those text messages. Maggie finds them. Everything blows up.
Oof, yeah. Heartbreaking, especially because Maggie, she seems like she gets it, the connection between Ridge and Sydney.
She does.
It shows a lot about her, you know? Even though she's hurting, she recognizes their connection is real. And she has to make this tough choice. Hang on to a relationship that's not working. Or let go so everyone can be happy.
And that choice leads to radio silence. Ridge and Sydney. Months of it.
Yeah, they're in limbo, figuring things out.
Those months are so important. They have time to think, to grow.
Ridge has to face his feelings for Sydney, right? What they mean for him, for his future. And Sydney has to deal with the consequences, the pain she caused.
And Warren, stuck in the middle, seeing them both hurting, makes his character even more complex.
He's loyal to both of them, trying to help, but he can't force them together. Sometimes you got to give people space to figure things out on their own.
And then Ridge's letter. He pours his heart out, feelings, regrets, hopes. It's raw.
Yeah, that letter is huge. It's Ridge taking charge, not sitting back anymore. He's fighting for what he wants. And that word, when, not if, tells you everything.
It's like he's saying, I believe in us, we have a future, I'll wait.
Exactly. He leaves the choice up to Sydney, respects her, gives her space.
And then, at the show, it's not Sydney who says when, it's Maggie.
Whoa! Powerful stuff. It shows how much Maggie loves Ridge, you know? She sees his happiness is with Sydney, and she lets him go. So selfless.
Love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about letting go, even if it hurts.
And she signs when, right, to Ridge. It's like she's giving him permission to move on visually, without a word.
Such a contrast to all that texting at the beginning. Here, silence, sign language, it speaks volumes.
It shows how many ways we communicate our feelings. Sometimes the most powerful things go beyond words.
And then we get that final reunion, Ridge and Sydney. And Sydney's been learning sign language.
That detail is so key. She's meeting Ridge on his level, not just accepting him, but trying to understand his world.
It shows how love can change you. Makes you want to step outside your comfort zone.
And the ending. They don't spell it out, whether they end up together, but you get this feeling of hope.
They've been through so much. But they found a way to connect.
Yeah.
To understand each other.
It reminds you that love's not always easy.
But it's worth fighting for.
Especially when you find someone who truly sees you, accepts you, pushes you to be better.
It's like Hoover saying, hey, those fairy tale endings, they're not the point. Sometimes the best love stories are about those quiet moments.
The struggles.
Yeah.
The little acts of kindness that bring people together.
Yeah, it's messy, it's complicated, but when you find someone who's willing to put in the work.
Oh, totally. It's so rewarding.
Maybe someday it throws out those perfect romance ideas,
Yeah,
right?
it does. Real relationships. It's all about figuring out your differences, dealing with obstacles, growing together.
And music. It's huge in this book.
Absolutely.
Not just a pastime for Ridge and Sydney. It's like their language.
It is. They express themselves through it. Connect on this whole other level.
Music gets past all the stuff they're struggling with.
Right. Lets them say things, you know, that words just can't.
Like their passion for music builds a bridge, connects their worlds in a way that nothing else could.
Absolutely.
And Hoover gets into specifics, you know, how Ridge feels the music, vibrations.
Yeah.
Creates this crazy intimate thing between him and Sydney.
It makes you rethink how we experience the world, the beauty of seeing things differently.
Totally. And Ridge being deaf, it's not a weakness.
Yeah.
It's like the strength.
Definitely.
Okay, so big picture now. All the twists and turns in this book.
Oh, yeah.
What's the big takeaway for our listeners, you think?
For me, it's got to be communication in every way possible. Those first texts, Ridge's letter, Maggie signing when. Hoover shows us how we use language, music, even silence to show our feelings, deal with relationships, find our way back to each other.
Powerful stuff. Communication's more than just talking.
It is. It's listening, understanding, meeting people where they're at.
And realizing sometimes the most important communication.
Yeah.
It's not even words.
It's those little gestures, those moments when you just pet each other.
So, wrapping up our deep dive into maybe someday, we'll leave you with this.
All right, imagine you're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Forbidden love, risk of heartbreak.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Think about it. And how does maybe someday change how you see love, loyalty, how powerful communication can be? Thanks for hanging out with us exploring Colleen Hoover's world. Hope you found some new perspectives. Until next time, keep digging into those complicated feelings and those books that really make you think.